the reading room?
Yes, I'm Saad Manzoor.
And I'm Travis Howard.
This is Reading Room Talk. Thank you for pressing play.
Yes, welcome everyone.
Yes, we appreciate you guys being here with us today. We are here with Radiology Royalty.
Absolutely.
We have Dr. Tina Young Poussaint here with us. How are you today?
Very well, very well. I'm
Great.
enjoying a very relaxing Sunday afternoon. It's snowing here in Boston where I live. And I'm hoping that this is the last snowfall. I'm ready for the
Yes.
weather to be more spring-like and maybe even summery. But
Exactly. We
it'll be
got
a
teased a
while.
little bit. Yeah, we got teased a little bit and now it's snowing again. So
Yeah, been no
hopefully-
shortage of snow, man. Been a
Yeah.
lot of snow this year.
Lots of snow in our
Yeah.
area. Yeah, it
Exactly.
really it reminds me of my childhood where I grew up in Rochester, New York, and it snowed there a lot. It snowed there so much.
Yes, that's like Canada basically.
Yeah.
Excellent. So take us back to medical school. What would you say was your toughest class or rotation in medical school?
Well, I went to Yale Medical School, and I'd say my
Mhm.
toughest rotation was probably surgery. I think
Mhm.
surgery just because of the early hours and sort of the long hours as well. Staying very late until the night with rounding and things of that nature. But despite that, when I first went to medical school, I even somewhat considered that I might want to do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Any particular type of surgery or general surgery?
No, I just thought maybe I might be interested in surgery because it was a really, there was a problem, you focused on it, you've operated, and then you cared for the patient. And it seemed like it was somewhat precise, but
Exactly.
yeah.
It is. It seems precise from the outside, but it's important to have that experience when you go through the actual rotations and see
Right.
the actual hours and the actual, what you're actually doing. I think sometimes, like when you're on the rotation, sometimes you're not in the OR as much as because there's
Exactly.
a lot has to happen for someone to have surgery, and a lot of
Yeah.
that comes down to the residents and medical students taking care of those things. So
Yeah,
wow.
but I also considered other things. I considered internal medicine. When I was in
Okay.
college, I had done I really loved endocrinology. And at the time I thought, oh, when I go to medical school, I want to be an internist. I want to be an endocrinologist. And
Oh, wow.
then, as I went through the rotations, I found there were many other areas that I was interested in pursuing. And it was really in my third year, when I did an elective in radiology, that I thought I would be interested in radiology because it sort of cut across all the different specialties in radiology, and it required, some knowledge of all those different specialties, as well as
Exactly.
it had such a marked, technological component with new discoveries
Yeah.
in terms of
Technology is always changing.
CT and
Absolutely.
MRI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So take us back to where you were born.
Well, I was born and grew up in Rochester, New York.
Yes.
Yes, I was there through high school. Had some slight detours along the way. I was born and then moved to Cincinnati for like a couple of years when I was around, let's say 5. And then we moved back to Rochester. Oh, we went to, let's see. First, we went to New Hampshire, actually, from Rochester, then to Cincinnati, and then back to Rochester. Yeah.
So we didn't know the back to Rochester part, but we did read about your father or we talked about your father in the past couple of episodes, Dr. Lionel Young. So he was the first African American radiology resident at Rochester. And did he have any influence on you as far as going into medicine, or was it he kind of let you do your own thing on the way?
Well, I'd say that his passion for what he was doing in radiology, I always remember that. And so I think that affected me in terms of a career choice. Just finding the importance of finding something that you really had a passion for. I remember that he was excited about that field. And so I think from his example, not so much the specialty, but the fact that one could focus on something, and if you had a niche or a passion, it would be easy to try to accomplish in that particular domain.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and what was the other question?
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, as far as, like, did he have an influence, as you answered the question, as far as, if he had any influence in you going to radiology particularly, but it sounds like he just liked what he did. And then that made you appreciate liking what you do,
Exactly. I
as you
realized
grow
that it
up.
was really important, to try to, like I said, find a focus, something you were passionate about, and then it makes it really easier to accomplish when when you can try to figure out that passion. So,
Yes.
and something, about following your curiosity is so important.
Absolutely.
So in
Yes.
whatever career you have, but in
Oh, that's,
particularly in medicine. So, um,
yes. That makes sense. Absolutely.
Was there any reason in particular why you chose to bypass surgery? Can you pinpoint it to maybe a couple of things or?
Not really. I think it was I just liked that rotation. But when I went to other rotations, I liked those too. So
Oh, okay.
I think it
Oh,
wasn't that I was really focused on surgery. I think that I liked surgery when I was sort of doing it, just because it was very focused.
Hmm.
And seems like you had a problem, the patient gets the operation, and then, you care for the patient after that. But
wow.
I think that really it was after I did this elective in radiology that I decided that would be something I was interested in pursuing.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, radiology has that effect. I mean, sometimes you have to do other rotations in order to appreciate radiology because you
Hmm.
don't really understand, like, like when you're on one rotation and going to see the radiologist, I guess you don't see the perspective of the radiologist where everyone's coming to them and asking them particular questions about their scans, about their patients. So sometimes it's important to have that perspective as well. So,
Like it is.
wow.
And
Yeah.
also they're looking for answers from the radiologist and, using the technology we have available, it's really so integrated into medical care,
Hmm.
that the radiologist has a really important role,
Yeah.
in
Absolutely.
terms of interfacing with the patients as well as with other clinicians. So I think that intellectual part of it, of interchange with other clinicians, is so important.
Hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let me ask you. So you went to high school in Rochester, or did you go to high school somewhere else?
No, I went to high school in Rochester, New York, and then after high school, well, I went to high school for 3 years there, and
Hmm.
then my family moved actually to Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
and I was at the end of my junior year, and that was a really hard time to move. But
Absolutely, you're like in the middle of high school. That's
yeah,
tough.
and
That is
Oh
not
yeah.
easy.
but my principal said that, told my parents that, I was going to be taking advanced placement courses, and said, well, she probably could go, to college earlier. But my parents really didn't want me to go to college because I was really young at age 16. So
Oh wow.
I went to a small college for a year in Pittsburgh called Carlow College. And then
Heard of
while I was
Carlo?
there,
Okay, okay,
and then
yeah.
while I was there, I knew I was going to transfer, so I transferred and applied for various schools to transfer. And
Hmm.
the school I chose was Mount Holyoke College, which is in South Hadley, Massachusetts.
Yes, yes. So can you tell us about like what other schools you were considering and why you chose Mount Holyoke?
Well, I didn't apply to that many schools. I think I applied to Brown. I think I applied to some local schools in Pittsburgh. I applied to Mount Holyoke. And it was really between Mount Holyoke and Brown, I think,
Mm,
when I made my decision. And So the way I made the decision was, I really thought there was a great focus that Mount Holyoke College had on women and women accomplishing, science.
mm-hmm.
And there was no issue about girls in science or young
Hmm.
women going into science. So I felt when I went there that I was really supported. And I majored in mathematics and biology.
Oh,
Oh wow.
good.
And so I always like the STEM areas of
Yeah. Oh, that's
career.
so great.
Well, that's one thing that we've been pointing out, and one thing that we see amongst the folks that we talk to is choosing a place where you feel supported.
Hmm.
You're unique. You bring a unique set of skills and background, but getting a sense that hey, when I come here, when I give it my all, I'm going to be supported. That I think that that speaks volumes. I think that's what you want to look for when you're choosing a school, a program, anything. That next step.
Yes, and
Exactly.
to seek out people that can provide support, meaning to try to seek out mentors and sponsors who can really help you in terms of your career path and give you
Hmm.
advice. And sometimes some people feel like, well, someone's going to come up to you, sort of tap you on the shoulder and say, I want to be your mentor, or I'm going to be your
No,
sponsor.
no,
But
doesn't work that way.
I think that you really have to make sure that you pursue and are not afraid to actually ask people questions along your path, along your journey, because people will be willing to answer. And amongst those people you talk to, you may find that there will be people who can serve as, mentors, sponsors or coaches who can give you valuable information that will be um, that will influence what you pursue, or will answer some of the questions that you have.
So true.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
Ask
that's
questions.
yeah. Now, was there anyone in particular at Mount Holyoke that kind of encouraged you or became your mentor or?
Oh, yes, there was a woman who I did an honors thesis with when I was there. Her name was Dr. Marilyn Pryor. She was in the
Marilyn
biology
Pryor.
department,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
I did my honors thesis with her in biology. It was an animal-based project, but she was always very encouraging. And in particular, the way I decided I was interested in medicine was they had the opportunity to do career exploration projects. So one
Hmm.
year I did a career exploration project with a pathologist who was
Oh,
in
interesting.
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And then another year I did a career exploration project for 1 month with a pediatrician.
Oh,
So
that's so cool.
yeah, it was really sort of, interesting to start off in pathology because I was really able to actually to interface into all aspects of pathology, from laboratory work to,
Hmm.
frozen section to, you know, um, autopsy to a variety of
Yeah.
things like that.
Oh,
So
that's
it's a little bit,
awesome.
it was a really good exposure, broad exposure. And I thought it was, really a great way to use some of my interest in science and biology, to help people and to serve.
Yeah. No,
So it was
that's.
really after that I went to Mount Holyoke, and then I decided, well, I'm interested in medical school, so
Hmm.
I applied to medical school, and I ended up going to being chosen to go to Yale Medical School, and
Yes. Major accomplishment. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
yeah, it was really a wonderful experience. I had a lot of, good classmates, excellent classmates, and really, superb professors. And I
Hmm.
really felt like it was a great place for me to go. It was there that I did, as I mentioned, at the end of my third year, I did a elective at the University of California in San Francisco in radiology.
Oh,
Okay.
And
wow.
at
Okay.
the
Okay.
time there, they had a person who was running a very comprehensive elective, and I had some family members on my mother's side who lived in San Francisco, or right outside of it. So I lived with
Hmm.
them for the summer, and I took the train and the BART to go over to UCSF and take
Oh, that's a
the
nice summer.
yes, it was good. It was a little cold in San Francisco, a little
Oh,
cold
is
Yeah,
it?
into the
absolutely.
temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. That's great. So, like at Yale, well, actually, can we go back to Mount Holyoke? So, Mount Holyoke, I think, is an all women institution. Is that correct?
Yes, it's an all women's college.
Okay. Now, how is like, would you recommend that for people? Do you feel like that was great for you, or do you feel like,
Well, I
you?
think there are many schools that one can attend. So there's
Hmm.
really, I think that, it's important to go to a school where you're going to have an encouraging environment and
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
you think that you can thrive and succeed. It's
Hmm.
hard to determine what that is when you first just go for an interview. You really kind
Right.
of don't know, but you should talk with people, in terms of choosing your college, that are at
Hmm.
the college, other students, see how
Hmm.
they like it, find out what the environment's like, find out if it seems like an environment that will be good for you. And then also where it's located, you might want to look into that. I think
Yes.
that having gone there, I understand that, that it was very encouraging for women in STEM, and I
Hmm.
never felt like I was discouraged there in terms of pursuing STEM or anything like that. But I think that, in 2022, there's many good colleges that one can choose. And
Absolutely.
for me, it
Absolutely.
worked out well, but there are many. But the common themes are making sure that it seems like an environment that you would get a good education, a well-rounded education, because this is one opportunity where you're probably never going to have that opportunity again.
Hmm.
To
Yes.
really get exposed to a variety of different topics
Hmm.
and to actually, really try to learn as much as you can. And while you're there, of course, you have to choose a major and identify what you're interested in, but to choose something you have a curiosity and passion for, that will
Absolutely.
it'll make it easier for you to actually want to do the work. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to
It's
Can,
pursue.
can,
it's a
can
lot of
you?
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Can you remember some of the pearls your dad was giving you, Dr. Young, at the time?
oh, he was giving me pearls of, study hard.
Uh huh.
He gave me pearls of, of being excellent, trying to really focus on excellence.
Mm,
Charles Drew had that wonderful quote, which says, "Excellence in performance will transcend artificial barriers
there you
carried by
go.
man." And I
Absolutely.
feel that,
Yes.
that was it was exemplified by my father's life. He really did
Hmm.
focus on excellence and doing, his work well. And he those values, both of my parents really stress those in terms of, being able to learn as much as you can and to use that to, to
Hmm.
serve
Hmm.
whatever capacity that you choose. In
Absolutely.
medicine, we're obviously choosing to serve and care for our patients and families, and especially at a time when they're vulnerable, whether they're sick or keeping them well in terms of preserving health and preventative care, etc. So I think that those were the kind of pearls, and so I did feel that for my own academic success, that it was really
Hmm.
important for me to
Hmm.
try to really focus on excellence. Um,
Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was going to say, I feel like, and your mom was also in medicine as well.
my mother is a retired podiatrist.
Yeah.
Um,
So you had that example of someone like a woman in STEM, which was your mom right there as well, which
Yes,
is.
yes, and she had, many more obstacles than I did, particularly
Hmm.
when she went to podiatry school.
I'm
She
sure.
tells
Yeah.
me that when she was in podiatry school, it was well known. She was there, I think in her class, they started off with 3 women. Of course, she was the only African American in her class,
Wow.
and
Hmm.
several of the women dropped out for a variety of reasons. And her classmates would often tell her that, we're not going to study, we're not going to study because we know Dr. So and so is going to call on you. And she said that it really
Oh man.
it really she had to make sure she was prepared because indeed every time this particular doctor
Oh my
Hmm.
gosh.
often
Wow.
call on her. But at
Mm,
the end, it worked out because she, was able to really do well. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
but it was a kind of a burden, I think, and it was clearly um,
Yeah.
greater
No,
stress. So
absolutely. Now, do you remember like approximately what year she probably finished podiatry school? Because I'm assuming this is
this might have been
fairly
in
early on.
'56, perhaps
Wow,
1956.
that's amazing.
A long time
That's
ago.
amazing. Wow, that's
overcoming obstacles. Oh my gosh.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's now, well, tell us now. So you were at Yale. Like, how many African Americans were in your medical school class at the time?
I think there were maybe 10 out of a total of 100. There were
Okay.
3 African American women,
Hmm.
and I think 10 to 12
Gotcha.
in total. Yeah.
I see. And are you still in contact with any of the African American women that you went to medical school with?
Yes, I am in contact with them. I'm very much in contact with one of them,
Hmm.
Dr. Valerie Stone, who lives here in Boston, and Dr.
Yes.
Deborah Arundel. She's in industry. I think she lives in California now, and I've
Hmm.
seen
Hmm.
her on occasion at meetings. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. Wow.
Yeah. It
Wow.
was really nice. It was a really nice experience, but I would also say that, on occasion there were stresses. Just
I'm
because
sure.
we had, 3 African American women, and I can say that this has occurred, throughout my career, but,
Hmm.
even though we look totally different, many times we were mistaken for each other and
I've experienced that. I know how you feel.
right.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Uh,
it's sort of
It's
like it's a microaggression, and
it
yeah,
is. It is.
absolutely.
it's sort of
Term for that back in the day. It was just something that
No.
happened,
Yeah,
like, and you really couldn't tell anybody, and
you
other
laugh it
than the other
off.
people. Yeah, exactly. So it's
right,
important that, like, you went through that. That actually happened to you, and I'm sure it happened to your mother as well, and I'm sure it happened to your father. So it's a commman theme. It's
right,
definitely a common
right.
theme, and but we can't let people that can't hold you back. Hopefully,
No, it
hopefully
No,
doesn't
that.
hold you back.
no.
It's just other ethnic groups also have sometimes these problems where they
Exactly.
people.
Sure.
I think the reason that it matters is that that kind of thing makes you feel invisible, and
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
leads to marginalization and can undermine your confidence. So I think
Exactly.
that the microaggressions that occur, they do occur. But they shouldn't deter you. But
Mm-mm.
people should be aware. They should be aware that they have effects.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
because like when I was gonna say when you're in medical school, I mean, sometimes all you have is your confidence. Like you need that. Like
Oh,
you
you
need
have
that
to have that.
confidence. Like if you don't have your confidence with the amount of work and the burden that's put on you, like if you don't have your confidence, then it's tough to move forward.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately what we have to do is really trust ourselves. You have to really
Hmm.
trust yourself, trust your
Hmm.
intuition, and of course beyond all of that, really persist.
Hmm. Hmm.
Persist and continue,
Hmm.
because it's very important, that we have people that continue on this journey to come into medicine. We need them,
Hmm.
and we know that it's very important for care. For care, we know that
Hmm.
people, underrepresented minorities, for example, really give not better care, but they improve. They make
The outcomes.
the outcomes better. They improve access and quality of care. So it's very
Absolutely.
important
Exactly.
that we really have a diverse and culturally responsive pool of doctors that can really collaborate with other healthcare professionals to achieve this aim.
I love that. I
Exactly.
love
That's
that.
exactly right. Wow.
So
Yeah.
you have this legacy of excellence. I can hear and sense that you weren't going to quit. You weren't going to stop. How did you deal with that pressure? How did you keep up with that legacy?
Well, the pressure of having to succeed.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
and not just succeeding and passing. I get the sense that that wasn't good enough. You had to do better than that. You
Hmm.
had to you had to be excellent.
Hmm.
How did you achieve it? How did you keep up?
Yeah. Tell us
Well,
about your mindset. Yes. When with all these things. Yes.
well, I think that it was so important. I knew that it was important to be excellent. And why did I feel that? Because I tried to maintain a focus, try to maintain a focus of what the ultimate aim was, which was to try to be the best doctor that I could.
Hmm.
So I tried to keep that focus. Truly, it is certainly it's a pressure, but there was really no other option than to try to do the best I could. And that's because I carry the legacy of so many that came uh, before that, from Rebecca Crumpler, the first African American physician,
Hmm.
till now. These people came and had terrible hurdles and obstacles they had to overcome. So I
Mhm.
felt like I stood on the shoulders of giants, as Isaac Newton said, and I thought that it was important to actually really, try to do my best. So, yeah,
Yes.
so certainly, it requires, perseverance. It requires, um, making sure that are focused. As I said, it's important that you develop a niche, and it's also that important that you get help from people if you have difficulties along the way as well.
Yes. Yes.
So I
Absolutely.
think that it's important to try to muster up whatever courage you can to succeed, but also in doing that along the way, it's very important to really make sure you take care of yourself in the process,
Absolutely.
so that
So
you can.
important.
Knowing that history, knowing the ancestors and their past, and being able to gather strength from that, that's so important. I think, and a lot of the history gets lost. So
Mhm.
I'm really happy with the way you just laid that out there, Dr. Poussaint. We have to do that.
Yeah, no, I
Absolutely.
think it's really important that, along the way, it's going to be it could be difficult, but it's just important to keep trying and to keep moving forward.
Yes.
And if
Yes.
you try and it doesn't work out, you just have to try again.
That's it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I often use the importance of, resiliency and the importance of acknowledging that the terrain, certainly of accomplishment can be very challenging, but
Mhm.
knowing that the hope of knowing that one door can close, another one can open. And along the way, this is why it's important to reach out to whatever resources you have for support and help.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
think that's really important as well. So I think a lot of times people might feel that they have to be stoic in these pursuits, and I think that that's, if you have other classmates that you work with
Mhm.
in your class when you're in high school that are like-minded in terms of, doing well enough to go to college, if you make friends with people who have your similar goals and ideals, this can help. You can help each other, and it's important to share and to help
Mhm.
each other along the way.
Mhm.
And when you do that, you can find that there are additional resources, not only in the support of those individuals, but perhaps you'll find that there are other supports that exist within your institution, within your
So true.
faculty,
So
or
true.
within your hospital.
So let me ask you. So this, I mean, that's absolutely right. So I'm sure that that was kind of your mindset when you were applying for radiology residency. And how did you choose to go to MGH?
Well, I applied to a variety of places. It's hard to
Hmm.
remember all the places I applied. As you know, when you're applying for to go to a place, you apply to many, many places.
Exactly.
But I felt that it was an opportunity. They had an excellent department of radiology, and
Hmm.
I thought that that would give me, very excellent training.
Hmm.
So that's how I ended up um, going there for my radiology residency, and then I stayed there to do my neuroradiology fellowship,
Hmm.
and then I
Hmm.
was on the faculty there for about 3 or 4 years, but I had an interest in pediatric neuroradiology, so
Hmm.
I actually then, was recruited to go to Boston Children's, which is just
Wow.
across the way.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're not going to
impressive.
let it slip that you were the first African American woman to go through the radiology residency at MGH, and also the first African American woman to be appointed full professor at Harvard Medical School. So those are major, major accomplishments. Did you know that you'd be making history as you were going along, or was this just something you just kind of happened along your way as you kind of had like tunnel vision going through?
Um, well, in terms of, first of all, I wasn't the first African American woman at Harvard Medical School.
Hmm.
There was someone before me who was a
Hmm.
psychiatrist, who's no longer with us, but um, there were some that came before, but there are very few, I would say.
Yes. Well, I was saying for radiology particularly, though.
Oh, for radiology.
Yeah, for
Yes,
radiology.
yes, that's
Yes.
actually right. Yes,
So,
yeah, in radiology,
so,
that is true. That is.
Yeah.
So,
No,
yeah,
that's.
I was the first African American woman resident radiology.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I'm sure I was the first African American um, woman neuroradiology fellow. There was another African American man
Hmm.
who was ahead of me, and that, and then I was the first African American um, neuroradiologist or radiologist on
Wow.
faculty there.
Wow. That's amazing.
At, at
And
the time, you really don't think about that so much,
hmm. Hmm.
but
Hmm.
no.
you do think about it because you're aware, because you're one of very few,
Yes.
and so you are aware of that.
Yeah.
Um, and but you also feel that you're obligated to make sure you do the best you can.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely a trailblazer. I think for people that are
I
coming along, like they need to
yeah.
know that like you did this thing, like you actually did it.
Yeah.
So
You paved the way for me. I
yes,
was after you years
that's right.
later as a fellow at MGH.
Oh, that's
That's
So
exactly
wonderful.
right. That's exactly
That's
right.
so-
right. Yeah. Different subspecialty, but I'm telling you, it's like
Yeah.
You
Someone needs to
know,
open the door. Yeah, someone needs to
absolutely.
open the door, and
Yeah.
that's so important that you're able to open the door for all of us. So,
Yeah,
you
well, that
know,
was really, an opportunity, but also, I am grateful, for the opportunity, and obviously, I believe that it was probably in my destiny. I
mhm,
and I have faith that that was the case.
yeah. And faith is important too, because like a lot of times you will be kind of questioning whether you can do
Oh yeah.
something or whether you feel like this is meant for you. But just having that faith is
No,
super
it's really
important as well.
important, and it just depends on what
Hmm.
your belief system is. But I always felt there was some sort of divine plan for my life, and so I actually don't didn't I'm not always aware of I've not always been aware of what that plan is. But
Hmm.
I do believe that there is that plan, and I think there's probably a plan for people who, if someone believes that there's probably a plan for their lives as well.
Absolutely, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that's so true. Now, since you went through all of this, now, what would you tell someone who's in medical school or in undergrad right now having a difficult time?
Well, I would say that, as I said, it's important to reach out. If you're having a difficult time, it's important to reach out. And I really do believe that it's important, if whenever you're having difficulty, to reach out and ask for help when you
Hmm.
need
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
So first it might be, talking to others, that your other classmates, but then it might be, speaking to a professor, or if there are facilities that can support you on your campus,
Hmm.
then you should reach out and get the support you need. And
So
that
true.
support can be, a variety of things. That support can be, you know, help academically. That support could be if you have, issues or help that you need to speak to someone or go to a therapist, or they have all kinds of, and it's good to reach out and get help when you need it. And I
Hmm.
think that people can't do all these things alone,
No.
Hmm.
and they have to really have realistic expectations that if there is something that you need help with, to reach out. And I think that that's so important.
Hmm.
It brings about community, which we all need.
Yeah,
Exactly,
exactly.
Yeah.
exactly. And that's kind of the thing we're trying to do with this podcast, hopefully, is just kind of get these stories out there and make sure that we're available, to help out in any way we can. And sometimes it's just talking about the stories and, trying to normalize the journey for everybody. So,
Exactly, because
yeah.
everyone has, hurdles and obstacles along the way,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
discouragements that
Listen.
ma can really affect your confidence. And so I think that
Exactly.
it's important for people to reach out, and I think these kinds of podcasts are so important, because not only do they, shine the light on people that have gone ahead, but they've also, let them know that there are people that are available to can talk about, the good
Absolutely.
parts of their journey, the parts that were easy or
Hmm.
not as hard, and the things that were harder. Uh,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. No, that's exactly right. And I think like in our community, like sometimes you just don't hear the difficult stories of the people who made it. So we do want to make sure that, like it's all doable, it's all possible. So
yes,
don't give up. Keep going.
keep
Keep
going.
going.
We have such a issue. We have such a need for
Hmm.
African
Hmm.
Americans, underrepresented minorities, and women in medicine.
Mhm.
I
Exactly,
mean, it's
exactly.
really, really important.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And we still have a great both gender, and it's improved considerably, but
Hmm.
there is both
There's a
uh,
way to go too. Yeah, there's
there's
definitely still a way to go. So
there's
that
a
makes
way to
sense.
go, both for underrepresented
Mhm.
minorities and for women
Yes.
physicians.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we really appreciate you being here with us today. We
Oh,
really
it's been a
appreciate you making the
pleasure.
time. Absolutely.
Oh my
Absolutely.
And
goodness. Well, I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed talking with
yeah,
you, and I hope that that people might be inspired to go into medicine, and
absolutely.
in particular to go into radiology. But we really need people going into medicine, women and underrepresented minorities. We really
Yes.
need them,
Exactly.
and there's so much work that needs to be done.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're
Radiology
welcome.
royalty. We're not
Thank you.
worthy. We're not worthy.
Bow down.
Yeah, so thank you
Uh,
so much. And thank you guys for listening. And till next time,
till
stay
next
Okay.
low and keep
Keep firing,
firing.
man. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.